Hello and welcome to the Mystic Cast, where you join me, Jack Stafford, a student of metaphysics, as I talk to a variety of guests to better understand the teachings given by the Masters through the Aetherius Society, the new cosmic religion for the Aquarian Age, incorporating all yogas, Christian mysticism, theosophy, UFOs, and much, much more. Please note that this is an independent podcast, not produced or fact-checked by the Aetherius Society. Today, my guest is Amirah Hall, spirit medium, intuitive life coach, NDE and contactee with 22 years bridging the realms. Hello, Amirah. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jack. It's such a delight. It's a cosmic tickle for me to be here.
Well, maybe you could just kick us off by telling us 22 years. That's a long time. How did it all begin?
Well, it probably began a lot longer than that. I've been on my own spiritual journey for over 40 years. I was born and raised in Canada and I was a Catholic. And I think there was something that was missing for me. I was always a seeker. I was curious about other religions. I remember when I was a teen going into a Protestant church thinking I might not survive. I might die in that church.
Wow.
So I had to push through a lot of unconscious programming, let's say, I had a curious mind. I've got an Aquarius moon. So I'm extremely sensitive. I've always been curious, but the parts of me, my natural intuitive abilities were dismissed by or invalidated by my family. So I quietly yearned for more information. And it wasn't until I left Canada that I bought my first card of a pack of tarot cards. And actually, I'm not a tarot card reader, but it was a strange moment where I was leaving Halifax. I was living there at the time, and with my American husband, the last thing I bought in Canada were these tarot cards. And it was almost like a symbolic signal or message for me that I was stepping into my spiritual self, moving into this new zone, permission in Southern California. And at the time, that was in the late 80s, that was a hotbed for metaphysics and sort of a new age foundation of growth. And so I began a search and a discovery, and I attended a lot of different trainings, the teachings of the inner Christ, started to study with the Rosicrucians, the Order of the Golden Dawn, the oh gosh, I can't even think, from religious science to got my ministerial degree. So it was a long journey of exploring. And at the same time, I was working a professional career. I was in executive sales in technology. And I couldn't talk about it. It wasn't something that you were openly discussing, right? It was, and still today in a lot of environments, this is not, it's taboo. So I was really a closet psychic and intuitive. I used my intuitive abilities, but it was hit and miss. It wasn't pure on where I could, without a doubt, trust it because there was just so much invalidation around me. It was in about 1990, 91. I everything started to fall apart for me. And I would say that was the beginning of my real true spiritual awakening. And that was my dad died in Canada. I got divorced, which was a huge blow to me because I feared divorce more than anything in the world. I was alone in America, and so I had no support system. I soon was diagnosed with chronic fatigue, and the doctor that I had at the time told me death or wheelchair. I got to
Oof.
pick, which was pretty grim, right? So, needless to say, I cried for 2 weeks, I didn't know what to do, I was lost. So the medical system basically shut the door on me. I had limited funds or resources, not knowing how to work the system. That was before the internet. So I pretty much closed down until a friend reached out to me and guided me towards acupuncture. And then I worked with chiropractic, and the acupuncturist did something remarkable, and that really opened another doorway for me. And I think it's important for right now where we're at in this global pandemic scenario that we're facing. And as I was talking to you in in our pre-conversation, is I feel that this is a mass awakening for the population, to where we've been duped or misled in terms of our own thinking. Well, how do we perceive our own health? Is it the government's responsibility, or is it someone outside of ourselves that has permission or authority over us? And so when the doctor told me of, death or wheelchair, and I cried for 2 weeks, and my friend said, "Try this acupuncture." This doctor said to me, "We don't look at it like you have a disease. We look at it to opening the energy channels." And so that was kind of a new thought for me. And this was in 1991. So, okay, that relaxed my mind. She goes, "Your mind is too busy." And it was. I was like a monkey mind. I think in Chinese medicine, I'm a fire monkey. So, I'm bouncing around. I can easily. So I had to learn how to quiet my mind. And that was the beginning of my journey to meditation, learning how to quiet my mind, how to focus, how to be present, and release the energies through acupuncture. And then I started a meditative practice. I started working with um, um, an Indian master, and yoga was really, really profound in me healing me. And of course, I was the weird one. People didn't really talk about it that much.
Mhm.
There was a small group of people doing it. The other thing that I started to do was detox. I started doing intestinal detoxes that led to something greater than that. And that's when I started having spiritual connections. And, Jesus appeared to me at one time. And I started receiving messages from Babaji. And um, yeah, Jesus was a steady stream. But again, this was something that I kept very private. And I remember one of my Christian friends said to me, "Oh, you're doing the devil's work." And I couldn't quite comprehend that. Wasn't really doing the devil's work in my mind. But of course, that's open to, you know, perspective, right? Where is our perspective at the time? So that was monumental. I soon lost my job. So, oftentimes in spiritual awakening process, it's almost like it's triggered by life-changing events, a loss or a death, loss of a job or a relationship, and or an illness. I lost my health, something that I discounted or didn't really value, yeah, they say, you're wealthy if you've got your health. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're in your 30s, you're invincible, right? So that's how it began. And for a long time, I was really, really stuck. I started building my energy again. Started getting stronger. It was a long process. And I developed some entrepreneurial projects, and I started working with jewelry and gemstones. And that built me up until I didn't have enough money and I went back into corporate world. But I thought, this time I'm going to do it different. I'm going to work from home. So in 1996, 97, I was probably one of the first work at home telecommuters. And so I created that for myself, thinking I was so smart. I created a six-figure income for myself working at home, and I could meditate. I could go swimming in the afternoon,
Sounds
and
great.
I set up a perfect environment for myself, right? Until I only had a 3-year plan. Guess what? They sold the company and terminated me because I was making too much money. And so, our plan is as only good as we can visualize and hold the vibration. So I jumped around a little bit, and then I was really curious and was looking for spiritual journey. I wanted to take a trip. So my first journey was to Peru. And that was working in the shaman in the jungle. I didn't know what ayahuasca was. And that's again, I was such a babe in the woods, but I jumped in with both feet and just went, "Okay, I'm ready." I cried on the airplane all the way from San Diego to Lima. Peru, because I knew innately that I was dying. And I thought there was going to be a plane crash or something like that. And
Did you
no,
have an NDE sometime?
I, I'm sorry.
Did you have a near-death experience in that time you said, or
Not in that time. Actually, it happened a year later
Oh.
after I got a message while I was working with the shaman that I was a star seed, that I came to this planet Earth through a gateway that they called it a stargate. And I was not a Trekkie. I was not somebody that was familiar to any of these terms. It was brand new to me. So they told me and showed me that I was like a starlight or a laser light that shot through the galaxy, and I landed in this place on Earth that was kind of in the area of Egypt. So I knew in that moment I needed to go to Egypt, and that's where a year later I found myself in Egypt and had this incredible spiritual journey with beautiful light leaders. And I extended my journey. I fell in love, or I thought I did. And that's when I had my near death experience and my extended stay. And I always say that you don't have to go to Egypt to have a near death experience, and you don't have to do it my way, because I guess maybe I'm a little stubborn or maybe a pioneer on the road of just exploring and not having a support system and or some training tracks. You know, now we've got so many incredible leaders, light leaders, and people that understand this. I really emphasize it's so important to minimize the downtime and really plug yourself into somebody that's got sort of a mechanism or a guideline for you to follow. Makes it so much easier rather than stabbing in the dark. Just a hit and miss journey, you know? It's kind of
Yeah.
like,
God, you had a roller coaster ride then.
and it can be extreme. And
Why do
this
you
is
think
an
we have to
extreme
hit people up to
sport.
go it's extreme.
For those spiritually awakening, an extreme version, Amirah's way.
Why do you think we have to get to rock bottom for so many people to have awakenings? Is it because the conscious mind is such a dominating force that to get its claws off us, we have to have this experience?
Yeah. I mean, we are so, I want to say, I use the word programmed. We are so deep in and lost in amnesia. You know, 20,000 years ago is my belief that we were probably Atlanteans or Lemurians, and we fell from that golden age. And so over time, we've incarnated to remember who we are.
Mm.
And in my near death experience, I got to see that love is the fabric of all creation. It is every molecule of everything that exists, you know, from this pen to our computers to everything is created with this vibration. It's a vibration. It's like in my near death experience, I stepped into the quantum field and I got this information that didn't make sense. And I didn't have that word, by the way, at the time. You know, it was a number of years later because my experience happened in '98 when I discovered Deepak Chopra and he was talking about the quantum field. I started to go, that's what I saw. That's where I was. That's what I now understand. And I had to internalize that experience. But I also learned that we are, I had a vision of my timeline here on light on earth. And I got to see that my illness and all of my troubles were created with thoughts and emotions. And they were like little dots on this timeline. So if you look at a 3D version, it was sort of positioned all around me in my energy field. And I was archiving all of this information. And that my job was to clear that. My job and path to understanding more of who and what I really am, which is love, I had to clear those dots. I had to clear the blocks
Mm.
to remember all of it. And that I am a spiritual being having a human experience. So whatever methodology we use, that's where when I came back, I knew too, in addition to that, how much detoxing, not only the physical body, the mental body, the emotional body, as well as our spiritual body. So there's a, I think in the Eastern Indian processes, I don't know if they define it exactly like that. They've got different terminology, and I haven't been a follower extensively, but so when I started to understand that from a Western mind and perspective, it just made perfect sense. And it was a simple process. It's not as easy to do, but that's when I started to develop and use for myself because I couldn't function after my near-death experience. I wandered around in this state of depression and anger and fear. I was really stuck in a low vibration for quite a while. And then I had to learn how to process and it wasn't an intellectual thing. Again, I was learning to clear this heavy, dark energy. And I didn't know where I was going or where it was taking me at all. It was a total desperation
Mm.
moment where I was. So, but when I started using these very simple tools, like in yoga, they talk about grounding and martial arts, right? I use grounding from the base of our spine. I use that release visualization to letting go down a grounding cord. When we can mentally engage with this process, it becomes like um, active, it becomes real, and we're a participant. It's not just notice your breath. Well, I want to do something with the frequency that's not helping me.
Mm.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, so it really chimes with what we've learned from the Ethereal Society. The masters talk about love is the energy beyond mind that makes up the fabric of the universe. It's not the love that people sing about, this emotional thing. It's actually an energy, a physical, tangible energy. So yeah, that really resonates.
Yeah, I wrote this book called Love Up Your Life. And because I know that most people, they would call me and say, Amirah, when's the love of my life coming? I got so sick and tired of people asking for when their relationship is coming or what's happening with their
Mm.
relationship. So people weren't aware, the masses. And I think that's starting to shift. We still got a ways to go, but it is a journey of when you will find that perfect partner when you vibrate at a frequency that they can find you at,
Mm.
kind of like a magnet. But
Also, if you're vibrating, if you're in love with one person, you're actually a very bad lover because you can't love everyone. You're too focused.
that's right. And so when we increase the vibration in our frequency, we become attracting things that we never knew we wanted, like, oh, gee, that job or an opportunity or doors open. So
Mm.
many things happen because you're vibrating at this frequency. And I'm almost hesitant to use the word love, right?
Yeah.
It's just a high frequency, the highest frequency we can embody. That would be the goal, you know, for
Mm.
people that are overthinking and analytical because we get ourselves all tangled up.
Oh yeah, I hear you. I mean, so how can we? You're a life coach now. You're trying to teach people to walk down the path you've just been on. What are the first steps?
The first step is go to my website, amirahhall.com, and download Stress Buster.
Okay.
It's a free guided journey. It is a process that I teach all my students, all my clients, and it's like an energy shower. So it gives you, it's a visual, it's a 15-minute quick drive through of releasing energy.
It's
They,
visualization practice.
it is a visualization. It's a meditation.
Okay.
It's different in that you're not leaving your body. The goal is to be in the body and release the frequency or the vibrations that are one, foreign to you, and or are not resonating with your core
Hmm.
and who you are. And you don't know what those are. I mean, I can see them. I'm an intuitive medium. I am a spirit medium. So I am a channel. I communicate with other beings, and dead people talk to me all the time because they're not really dead. Pardon me. And so when we start releasing that energy, that's when our own natural, innate spiritual abilities and gifts can resurrect that we've
Mm.
been suppressing. Our gifts, maybe you're an artist, maybe in your music world. I work with a client, and it was interesting that he's always done gigs his whole life. He was a bass guitarist and a bass player and a guitarist. I guess, is that a new word, the bass guitarist?
No, that's a good word. Yeah.
So yeah, he's married and a spiritual seeker, and worked a regular job. Well, his wife passed away last year, and he was really, really struggling with the loss of her, his friendship with her, the love that they shared. So he started working with me in my programs, and when he started clearing the energies from his chakras, and like his first goal was, Amira, I want to make income from my love of playing the bass or the guitar, and not so much from my job. I really, it's been a lifelong dream, and this guy's in his 50s, and yourself as a musician,
It's
it's
tough.
it's it's a tough walk with the competition, right?
Oh yeah.
After about 3 months, less than 3 months, it was by Christmas time, he goes, "Amira, I'm all booked up with gigs for January and February, and my band can't believe how busy we are. I put down the bass and picked up my guitar, and people are coming up to me and videotaping me." He's having a rock star experience that, he's now willing to just accept working, but he's got all of his free time is completely filled up with gigs. So it's almost like another completely old job.
Wow.
So that's what I help people do,
Mm.
is realizing what's their passion.
Yeah.
And
Because everyone's blocked, isn't it? I mean, our psychic abilities are our birthright. We should all be like you. We should all be having these when we open our when we clear all our nadis, when we open our chakras, it's an innate birthright, no?
yes, we are spiritual beings, and that's our system of communication. And when people say to me, "Well, how do I want to develop my pineal gland? I want to open my third eye." And I'm like, "Really? First of all, it doesn't just snap open like that unless you have a near death like me. No, but it's a process of balancing and integrating all the chakras.
Mm.
When that happens, your third eye will open naturally and beautifully. But, there is a mass awakening happening, and people's spiritual abilities are opening and being triggered, and they don't know what to do with it.
Mm.
And I've been saying for a couple years now, it's like, there's going to be more. There's going to be more spiritual gifts than we're already aware of. Like at one time, I remember sitting in my garage. I had just cleaned it, and I was quite proud of how spick and span it looked. And I was sitting on this little step stool, and I had a roommate at the time, and I remember thinking, she's not gonna see me. She's gonna come in here and she's not gonna see me." Sure enough, within a minute, the door opened and she walked out and she looked, and the room was empty. The garage was empty completely. And she was just looking around. "Amira, where are you?" And I went, "I just made myself invisible. How did I do this?" And I haven't been able to repeat that, by the way,
Uh,
that I know of.
yeah.
But I believe, for instance, we could find ourselves walking through walls
Mm.
or teleporting like the masters talk about and do. I believe we're coming to an era where more people, just the everyday you and me,
Mm.
are going to be waking up to these abilities. And but we need to prepare ourselves,
Yeah.
because if we all of a sudden end up in Virginia and you live in Texas and you're like, how do you get yourself back, or how do you deal with it? And so this becomes an intellectual, mental, emotional, uh, stretch, doesn't it?
Because I'm sure it hasn't been easy when you started hearing voices of people on the other realms. I'm sure it wasn't easy. Can you turn it on and off? Can you
Well,
concentrate on these?
I try to, but quite honestly, I could be sitting at a bar having a glass of wine, and I start channeling somebody's dead grandmother, or I will, like, do you have a grandmother that you're close to? And then the grandmother will come through with a message. And I had this woman crying. It happens a lot for me. So
Mm,
I don't try to do it. I really try. My goal is to be as human and as,
mm,
oh, what's normal anymore? That's normal for me, but I try to be more in a place where people can, you know, be
mhm.
receptive to me as a personality, not
Sure.
talking to dead people. So they always have a message, and it's always with love and encouragement. And I believe that with so many people crossing at
Mhm,
this time, there is going to be an acceleration of this. I believe this has we've been having a wake up call.
mhm.
And what's happening is a lot of people are fearing death. And so they're hunkering down or isolating and stopping doing, not good English, is it? What they really want to do here.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's we can't do that. We can't go there. So whatever I can do to help people step out of that fear, and go for it and be open to something maybe you didn't consider and really explore your potential and wonder, because we are here to know who we are.
Mm.
That's it. That's our purpose. So exploring all the options, with discernment. Okay, I'm not saying, do these wild and crazy things. Well, if you pop out of this life, I can guarantee there will either be a repeat or not. So it's up to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, it's interesting what you were saying about the rise of consciousness because I think it was Madame Blavatsky from the who founded the Theosophical Society. She said the ring pass knot was put in place after Lemuria and reinforced after Atlantis, the ionosphere. So we're getting less energy from the sun. So we don't have these innate psychic abilities, but the ionosphere is coming down. Where there is this raising consciousness, but not everyone can exist at that frequency. So many people will pass on, and they
Well,
will
that's
be.
a wonderful explanation, Jack.
Yeah.
I am not as articulate as you or as
I've
um
just read that, so
yeah, no, no. Well, it's plausible and it absolutely resonates with me. The other thing is that people are beginning to channel.
Mm,
They're not aware that they're channeling these other energies. When I channel or when I bring in a master or information from the other side, even ETs or ascended beings, I have to. It does alter my physical body,
mm,
and I have to, at the end, reclaim my own energy and absolutely extract and send them their energy back to them
mm, mm.
because they are extremely high vibration. And that's why a lot of people don't connect or
Yeah, I wanted
con.
to ask you about that because, from my understanding, the medium you get somebody on your level. It's too much energy to put through a normal person; they won't get it. So you can only get somebody on your frequency.
Well, that is why I do the work I do. And it takes a lot of commitment to practicing and being in meditation, keeping my vibration clear and high. But I also learned and teach people how to turn down their chakras so they can access a higher level, but then be able to come back. Because ultimately, I believe, I don't want to program anybody here, but I believe we are here to raise our vibration,
Mm,
but we're a spirit being having a human experience. So we're
exactly. Yeah.
not here as spiritual beings to be out of our body, and be in all this woo-woo state all the time. It just doesn't compute in
Yeah,
my mind.
we're supposed to enjoy this realm and learn from it. And
Exactly.
if you can't exist here, you're not gonna exist on a higher realm because you haven't learnt the lessons in the lowest classroom. You can't go to university if you haven't finished high school.
And that's so interesting because when I talk to people that are on the other side of life, I remember this one man that this lady came to me and she wanted to connect with her dad. She was really interested in knowing about that. And what he showed me is, and this sounds, I don't usually remember my readings, but his communication was he was busy in his workshop. he was busy cutting away, and it was like he was on this constant repeat. He was just sawing, but it was a continual, stretch of video that I was looking at, and I thought that was interesting, and I told her, "Well, he's in his workshop, and he's making projects." And she goes, "That was the love of his life.
Mm.
He loved woodworking." So that man had spent his life and dedicated, and he just loved his woodworking, but he didn't develop and, you know, advance his conscious awareness or spiritual connection. So he went to the zone of
Mm.
he was in woodworking work. That was his heaven.
So
Now
are there different because in the Ethereal Society, my understanding from my metaphysics teacher is that each chakra is a realm of consciousness. So there's 6 above the root chakra and 4 below. And so when we pass over, there's not one spirit world. There are different levels, but they are exactly in this space, abyss, where they just matter exists and consciousness exists in the same, just like light, different parts of the electromagnetic frequency. Is that your
right.
understanding as well?
Yeah, and I don't go into an analytical process typically of what sphere or zone they're in when I'm communicating with them. But that is it makes sense. And a lot of those spheres or zones are way too hard for us to comprehend or to retain at the human level.
Mm.
So, and I also experience from thousands of people that I've communicated with is that it's different for everybody.
Right.
And I'm not so sure there's only 6 realms or 6 chakras above. I can't really specify.
Mm.
And so I know that I've communicated with people that go in and out of zones and are in different levels
Oh, yeah.
and are exploring. So I'm just a student on the path like everybody else, but the more I communicate with them, the more information I get. And so that's my validation. I know from my own personal experience of going to the other side in my near death experience that, energetics cannot be really defined. In our human mind, we want to say there's levels, but
Mm.
perhaps when we're dealing with a quantum field and interdimensions, how do we compartmentalize that? With our linear thinking and left brain, we want that. It gives us some satisfaction, but I kind of think it's kind of mental masturbation.
Well, that's true. That's probably very true. I've tried to get explanations out of different mediums and understanding it, tried to piece together because it's, the physical realm's easy to, we can have a
Well,
map.
not really.
Well, I know where New York is. I know where Beijing is,
Oh, okay.
and that. But to understand the other realms, which because we are spirits, which are closer, the spirit realms is very difficult because you don't see them in the same way. You don't experience them in the same way. I'm not able to do astral projection, but I've spoken to people who practice, and they seem to be reluctant to talk about it. Mm.
Well, you can do it if you were trained, I believe, or if
Yeah,
that was of an interest to you.
yeah.
And, I help people develop their third eye. It's a journey of going through the chakras where we clear them and clear them in relationship to your goals and individual goals. So it is an experience that we go through. And I think that's all part of the journey too, is
Mm.
is how are you experienced and perspectives, because you could say, well, New York from where you're located is across the pond. Well, for somebody in Florida, it's not across the pond. So it's a different perspective, isn't it? Based on your perceived reality.
Mhm. Everything's
So
relative.
my interpretation is going to be from my perspective based on my soul's journey, incarnations, and life experience here. So now I'm beginning, over the last 20 plus years, really diving deeper with now I have more questions,
Oh yeah,
than
sure.
ever.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and and my grandmother used to say, live and learn and die stupid. I had no idea what she meant by that, but it really is like the more you know, the less you know. It's in terms of the cosmos.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. Yeah, live and learn and die stupid. I must remember that.
Profound, isn't it?
Yeah.
from a lady that was, I think she had grade 6 education, and, bless her heart,
Wow.
but where do we take it from there? We can never know enough,
Mm.
and, I think the journey here is to understand ourselves, understand the dimension, the world, earth experience, and to integrate and understand our spiritual experience here and refine that. We're here to remember who we are, that we are that light, we are that love. And, I've read all the books and, listened to teachings of the masters talking about that. It's another thing to internalize it, right? Because those are great words that you hear through songs, you hear through history, poetry. But how do we get there?
Mm. Mm.
Don't we want that?
Yeah.
We think it's gonna be the new job or the new relationship until we get to a certain level. Once you start and are spiritually awakening, you want more. But again, it is not an intellectual watch a bunch of YouTube channel videos, right? It's
No.
not gonna happen that way.
Mm. I'm going back to what you said about raising the vibration. So I do the 12 blessings practice every night, which was channeled by Dr. George King, who was the founder of the Ethereal Society. And
Okay.
he was a medium as well, but he he was not a passive medium. He raised Kundalini up the all the way to the crown chakra. He was a master. And so he went into samadhi every time to receive a transmission. So he was in an extremely elevated state, so he could
A
communicate.
trance, he was in a trance channel.
Mm, he was not. It's not. It was an active trance, so it's not a
So
passive
he was
trance.
conscious.
Um, yes, but he didn't know that. So he would
Got it.
see these beams of light in front of him, and he could hold them through his throat chakra psychically. And then the Master Jesus spoke through him, and he gave an updated Sermon on the Mount. He delivered the 12 blessings in 12 consecutive Sundays. And so we have this. It's like a tantric ritual. You send out uh, energy to successively higher beings, those who work for peace, the ascended masters, the healers, the earth, the sun, the galaxy, all of which are living beings, and they send us energy back. And I'm trying to send out energy through my hands. It's like spiritual healing. So you send out energy through the heart chakra in your hands, and don't feel any energy going out. So there's nothing happening. So I'm just doing the prayers. So I wanted to ask you because your website is chakra. Um, what's the word?
Well, yeah, so one of the domains is chakra clearing.
Chakra clearing. Yeah.
Right. I really believe that's the starting point for me.
Mm.
And even my stress buster, that energy shower I mentioned, the free download, that's basically doing it. I'm not specifically pointing it out, but you're running the cosmic energy through your channels as well as earth energy. So we're flushing it out. Now, what was your question?
So because the chakras respond to different. One of my friends told me that the solar plexus chakra can respond like, or your digestion can respond like an ox, to brutal masculine energy. You do this, you do that. Whereas the heart responds to a lighter frequency, the love frequency. So I know you sent me um, some links to opening the heart chakra. I just wonder if you could talk about how to do that.
Again, I don't focus on one specific chakra.
Okay.
I believe it's a system that is so intricate and integrated that I think it's a mistake. I think we have to start with our first chakra and all of our issues here in the body and our human experience. Like I learned in my near death experience is I've got to start clearing those emotions and my fears of not feeling safe and in the body. Third chakra for me is more about developing a center of power, of being able to have healthy boundaries and being able to express ourselves without invading someone else's energy field. So when you say you don't send out energy, I believe you do. You might not do it directly through your hands. I think that your mental connection with your heart and hands is an intentional, energetic force field that you're emitting. The
Okay.
beautiful thing is you're holding your energy. You're not losing your energy field, and that's profound. And most people don't know how to do that. A lot of teachers or, I call them weekend warriors or people that have done a workshop or something online, they think they're all of a sudden certified for something. That doesn't happen just like that. I'm sorry to say. It requires some development and some practice and some more practice and development and having someone to refine or define for you, sort of course correct. But in that process, we get stronger and stronger. And I always say when your energy field is clear of foreign energies, then your chakra system, it's almost like they know what to do, just like our
Mhm.
body. We don't tell our heart to pump. There is a system that's set up that once it's clear, it can function perfectly and do what it's here to do. I teach people how to, like other psychics, when I have witnessed it, where they will actually go into the person's energy field and they leave some of their energy there. That makes a person sick. Likewise, they don't reclaim their energy to themselves, and that makes them fat because they're like, "Oh, I need some chocolate," or I gotta go, I don't know, eat." It's a typical emotional response to clear energy, or have sex or, go shopping. There are various forms of, "I
Right. There's
gotta
that.
clear this, whatever this is."
Ah.
And so
These cravings are an answer to an unconscious response to need to clear energy.
I call it stuck energy and just
Ah.
clear the blocks. And then when that third chakra, when you've got your energy field, your power to speak, you create, right? All of those, of course, there's interaction with the other chakras, but when we can clearly, and the word was,
Yeah.
right? We create with our word. We create with our thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah.
What thoughts are going through your mind? If you're fearful of dying because of COVID or something, then guess what? That's triggering it's firing up all kinds of lifetimes, ancestral messages.
Mhm.
So I don't know if I really answered your question,
So
but
what you're saying is cleansing is the solution, physically, mentally, in every aspect of your life, and then everything will function as it would in simply with the physical if you just
absolutely, you don't have to think about it.
right.
Like I get to the point where I had all these books when I sold everything I owned, and in Southern California after the 2009 crash, 2010, I moved to Dubai and I started working there.
Oh, you've been all
And
over.
not quite, but a lot of places. Yeah, I lived over there for 5 years and I just was following my spirit guides and didn't have a clue what I was going to do except do what I do. And I had a lady to promote me in the very beginning. And why was I going about that trip? Darn it.
Yeah,
I
Dubai, I wouldn't say was a spiritual
I got I
practice.
got,
Yeah.
railed a bit here. Um, Bottom line is you take who you are and what you've developed wherever you go,
Mm,
and people will see that. And, there was a reason why I was saying that about, um, letting go of everything. Oh,
mm,
last thing I let go of were my collection of books, of spiritual books,
mhm,
because about a year before that, I got the message to stop reading.
mm,
And that was for me personally. I'm not telling everybody to stop reading. I'm even the author of books. But the point of it is I needed to go within. I needed to have my experiences and connect with spirit to be able to trust that. Listening to my intuition.
you're feeding
Maybe
the mind too much.
right. So that for me was a step, a big step. Now Dubai was a whole nother chapter. I ended up working with members of the royal families. And there was one story where a woman, talking about blocked energy. I didn't know when I was called to go see this lady that she was a royal princess. And I'm talking high up in the royal family. Her husband's, I think, number 3 leading the country. So when I went there, I remember looking at her energy field and I said, "What happened to you when you were 18?" And she said, "Oh, Amirah," she said, "I cried for 2 weeks straight." I said, "What happened?" She goes, "I was planning to marry one man and my family made me marry another man. And the other man happened to be the prince." And she said, being a cousin, she didn't want to marry into the immediate royal family because of the, limitations, loss of freedom. And she didn't want that life, but she was forced into it. So what was interesting is this woman had called me because she wanted to have another child. She had 3 children. They were all in vitro fertilization, but she was told by the top teams, medical teams from Europe, she could never conceive naturally. So she listened to them, and then she did a 4th IVF and it failed. For a royal princess in the Middle East, your job is to procreate
Oh, God.
as much as possible.
That's a,
That's
that's a
your job.
terrible story, Amira.
Well, it doesn't end badly,
Okay.
okay? So the beautiful thing is, I mean, just understand they have a different world and a different
Mm,
perspective
mm.
than we do. And her goal was to have a child. So she just called me thinking I could do some energy work so that she could get pregnant. When they set up the team, Europe was coming, medical team to Dubai, and she was going to, you know, do it there. Long story, after about 6 sessions, her husband started coming home earlier and they were a lot more frisky. And she was developing a passion that she never had before. Previously, she was going to bed with the kids. And all of this excitement was, churning. And her husband would come home and take her into the guest bedroom, which was never, ever something that happened. So I said, "Well, did you enjoy it? Were you having fun?" And she goes, "Oh my gosh," she was like a little kid, a little teenager that had never had this wonderful experience. I said, "Don't be surprised if you get pregnant before you start the hormone therapy." Well, guess what? She called me 2 weeks after and she goes, "I have something to tell you." I said, "Yeah, you're pregnant." She goes, "Voila, how did you know?" She goes, "I thought you were the craziest lady." So, well, she delivered a happy, healthy baby boy naturally.
Yeah.
And the doctors were blown away. Everybody was super excited. And she told me, she goes, "Amirah, you gave me the greatest gift anyone could give me.
Wow.
That feeling like a real woman." So because she was never, ever conceived naturally, she didn't even have the joy of giving birth and feeling the process of creation, and delivery. So, this is the point. This is how, not everybody's at this level of wanting to channel. They just want what they want, right? But until everything is lined up, and for her, she wasn't a great student in terms of for me. She wanted what she wanted, and so I assisted her and
And what
helped
did you
her
do?
with it. I'm sorry?
What you saw her, you can see the aura, you can see the energy
Yeah.
channels, and you
I
just did
can
clearing?
what happens for me, it's almost like, and it's different. Sometimes I'll hear something, sometimes I'll feel, sometimes I see. So there's oftentimes a combination of I often see a video that will start unfolding and explains the story. Usually, I don't like people to tell me what's going on. They might tell me their issue, and then I'll find the string that leads to the core. The secret is being able to remove the core, right? And sometimes there's several. Sometimes it takes several swipes, right? When you've got a virus on your computer,
Mm.
sometimes you've got to dig a little bit, right? Before you get all those little buggers. They hide and seek. And so it's like I'm like a virus check or a scan disk. In the old days we had that, and I I I remove the malware, that's disturbing the
It's a
natural
beautiful
flow.
analogy, yeah, yeah.
Well, it works for some people.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and so then we can just be happy because that's what we're here to do. We're here to have a higher vibration. We're here to learn that we can create. And, everybody that I work with is at a various stage of development. And so I honor that. But starting to realize that I can see into what's going on in your world and how you created it so that you can unravel it is key,
Mm,
because it's freedom to know that you get to do this.
mm. Yeah, it's so inspiring. I'm really feel my vibrations rising, speaking to you. I mean, every morning I do a mantra and pranayama practices. I do over an hour, well over an hour.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm doing my prayers in the evening, and but I still when I speak to feel like you, I wrote a song called "Blind and Groping in the Dark," and I do feel
Say
like
that again. Say that again.
the song was called "Blind and Groping in the Dark." The psychics can see colors for which we have no names, and things like that, and
How beautiful.
the divas flying and things like that. Do you see nature spirits as well?
I can connect with pretty much anybody. When I was in Ireland, I remember connecting with a pirate that was holding the energy. And honestly, the name has escaped me. There was one mound not too far from Dublin. Not Dublin. What's the city north of Dublin? Um,
Kilkenny or something?
no, gosh
Oh, I got
darn
the
it.
Irish wrong. Dublin.
Anyway, I remember with a group, there was 4 of us, and I remember in meditation outside the mound, and this pirate came to me, and he was holding the vibration of the IRA and the North and Ireland fighting. And I remember releasing him, and we were on the trip, and there was a news announcement on the telly that they had put down their arms. After I unplugged this nasty little demon, he was there engaged in holding the conflict. And he was all bubbly and he was like a little gnome type of a pirate, but that's what his job was.
What?
It was fascinating. And I often forget these stories. I've got so many stories, Jack. But when you've been doing this so long, um, I forget more than I
Yeah.
I know. So
That's fascinating because I mean, I don't need to see dead people or hear people walking around, but I'm doing these prayers and I want to do spiritual healing. I want to be able to send the white light into people and be able to heal, because so many people are suffering around. I think that's just would be a fantastic thing to be able to do. And prayer is the same energy, you're sending energy from point A to point B.
well,
So,
Jack, I just have a suggestion. Let's reframe it from focusing on people's suffering to the process of awakening.
mm,
When you wake up in the morning, some of us are groggy. So rub our eyes and
all right.
take our time and stumble around and kind of reconfigure ourselves. I think that's a great analogy to what humanity's going through right now.
Okay.
We're waking up. My book, The Essential Guide to Spiritual Awakening, is still with my editor, but it'll be available through Amazon and on my website soon. But I write in there, that's what we are engaging in. So, yeah, we're suffering in that stumbling around process, but let's identify instead of the anxiety and the ignorance and the fear and all that darkness, let's focus on we're waking up. Because that's a lighter side of the exact same thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then we can send those same vibes to assisting in that process because, for many people, they're so deeply entrenched in the fear vibration
Mm,
and anger and grief from f forgetting who they are, that maybe they won't make it this time around in terms of reaching that level of consciousness. And, I'm not here to judge or to ascertain true or not, but, um, and it's everybody's soul's business.
mm, mm.
We all have our journey, but that's my take on it. It's like, those of us who are awakening, that vibration sends a ripple. And so the very nature of you and me being here and having this conversation is sending a ripple.
Yeah.
Okay, there it is. And then there's another ripple, and then there's another ripple. When you throw a rock in a pond, you don't know that you've scared the fish. You don't know if a leaf that was on floating is now diving down. You don't know the ramifications of it. So we have to sort of just be all that we can be for each of us. And then know that if we do nothing more than that, but being your highest vibration possible today,
That's
that
beautiful.
is shifting the planet.
Yeah. Wow, that's really positive. Yeah, I guess we're all like flowers opening, and you see somebody, you must see people around you going much slower than you would like. But if you see a flower trying to opening, if you try and force open the petals, and you just break it, So everything has to just be thrown water and love and light, and we will all flower eventually.
Yeah. Like waiting for that pot of water to boil. When you said the rose or the flower metaphor, I remember going out in my garden and so many times going, "Oh, that rose hasn't blossomed yet," and then go out the next day, it's still not blossomed. How many times do you look at it and it's still not there? And so many times clients say to me, "Amirah, how long is this gonna go on? I just can't bear it anymore."
Mm.
Hopefully we shift and something positive happens. Good. For a long time, my clients called me the miracle mentor. And that's what my work is creating miracles. And for you, Jack, it might be different than someone else, right? But it's still so amazing to you.
Wow, that has been fantastic. Thanks so much, Amir. How can people learn more about you, and what could, so I'm for one, I'm going to download the Stress Buster. I'm going to start there.
Absolutely.
I think
Yeah.
practice is the most important thing. You can practice before theory.
Yeah, and just start letting go. And that stress buster, it's on my website, amirahhall.com, AmirahHall, two H's and two L's.com. And then just download that and start to listen to it. I do not do it driving. Don't do it multitasking. Just sit down, give yourself 15 minutes, consider yourself giving yourself an energy shower. And when you commit to that, beginning meditators struggle with oftentimes focusing or committing to something, but
Mhm.
you shower every day, right? You brush
Oh
your
yeah.
teeth, I hope, every day. And so that's another step, and giving that to yourself and thinking, okay, I'm going to flush my energy field. See, nobody's taught us these basics.
Do you do the
Nobody
violet flame
taught.
practice?
What's that?
Do you do the violet flame? Is that one of the practices?
I don't teach that per se in my beginning trainings. It's one of the things we start to channel energies in my miracle mentoring, my chakra mastery, and also my intuitive mastery. I take people to higher levels. I don't really talk about that in the beginning. Because, well, we could, but all this sexy spiritual stuff is really just taking us out of the body. It's not teaching us how to master the energetics of who we are. And so that's my point of that is I believe let's come back to kindergarten. Let's learn the ABCs of what we are. Nobody taught us. Okay. At least in the West, we didn't learn this. So let's learn the ABCs of our energy. How am I creating the life I have right now? And how do I create something different? Okay. And what would you like to see different so we can start clearing the energy? It's the simple, very simple formula. Let's not complicate it because this is for everyday, ordinary people making their lives work.
Is it daily practice?
I recommend doing it night and
Yeah.
day. I recommend doing it when you're feeling shitty and when you're feeling great.
Okay.
I feel like we can't do it too much.
Okay.
There's times where if you're in a really humid climate, you might take 2 showers a day, right?
Yeah.
If you're
There's
in a
some.
really dry place, sponge bath and shower a couple times a week or, everybody does their thing. The point of it is you've been collecting a lot of crap
Mhm.
on the journey and energy of your dad said you'd never be successful. Your mom said, "Oh, don't do that. Be safe." We have all of these little programs that we've picked up that need to be released so that we can step into the fullness of who we are, right?
Totally makes sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
To me, it's very practical.
Yeah.
It's a practical, approachable, well, we got to get out of the logic in one hand to allow the illogical part of ourselves to start to reformat. Yeah, it's a reformatting process, using other parts of who we are that have been turned off. We're igniting them. We're turning off some of the stuff that is not functioning correctly.
Mhm.
And that's, another great metaphor that I'm Chandler. I don't want to stop you.
No, well, I
You know,
think we've covered it there. You just have to come on
yeah,
another time,
figure it out.
when your book's ready, and yeah, super inspiring. And
Yeah, my book called Manifesting Miracles 101 is available on Amazon. And it's really not a book that you pick up and read. It's a guidebook. For people that want to really start doing the work, they could use that guidebook. And that's sort of a summary of some of my mentoring. And so I take you step through each of the chakras. And again, it's not something to just read. You have to have the experience.
mm,
The other book is called Love Up Your Life, and that's also on Amazon. I also want to mention I'm organizing another spiritual journey to Egypt this year in October, November. And it's very exciting because we're going to be meditating in a private ceremony in the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid on the lunar eclipse. So it's all synchronized to a very pivotal time in our history, in our development. So I'm super excited. There is a link on my website to sign up if you're interested because all the details haven't been released yet. We're still waiting for Egypt to get back to us with pricing. So all of that is coming up and I'm super, super excited for that.
wow, that'll be amazing. Gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, this has been fantastic. Thanks so much, Amira.
Hey, thank you. What a pleasure. We've been all around the cosmos, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've been up and down the chakra system. Ooh, I'm worn out.
And like you say, you had many more anecdotes that you just didn't have time to go through. So with such a
Yeah.
life, yeah, yeah. But I
Thank you
think
so
we got the
much.
headlines. We got the detox message then. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
All right, Amira, take care.
Many blessings to you, Jack. You're doing amazing work, by the way. I
Well,
really, really admire you.
oh, well, thank you. Likewise.
Thank you. Thank you for holding the light, spreading the light, and being that ripple.
Brilliant.
Oh,
Thanks. Thanks,
okay.
Amira.
Talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.